Hey guys, Mr. Wilson here. Today we are going to talk about perpendicular lines. At the end of this video, you should be able to identify perpendicular lines from their equations, and you should be able to write the equation line when given information about its perpendicular line. Alright, so we're going to start this off similar to how we did with parallel lines, and I'm going to ask you to graph both lines on the same coordinate plane. So our first line, we have y equals 2x, or 2/3 x minus 5. So we'll start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Start with the y-intercept, -5. Our slope is 2/3, so we'll go up 1, 2 over 1, 2, 3. Both positive. Go up 2 over 1, 2, 3. Remember, we could also go from the y-intercept down 2 and left 3. Because the negative divided by negative is also positive. Okay, I'll use my straight edge to try to help me with the straight line. See if that works out for me. Worked out right. Okay. Alright. So there's my first line. Mark it like this to have a different pen with me, I do. Alright, second line. Okay, we have a y-intercept of +1. And a slope of -3/2. Remember, with this negative in the middle, sometimes people get confused and make both negative. But I'm going to move it to the top. 1, 2, 3 over 2. 1, 2, 3 over 2. 1, 2, doesn't work. I could also go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and left 2. That would happen if I moved my negative to the bottom. Okay. Again, I will use a straight edge to assist me in making a straight line. You don't have to do it this way if you're gifted in making straight lines. I am not. Okay, and so here are our two lines. Okay, these lines are perpendicular. What makes them perpendicular is their slope, or their slopes. Okay, to be perpendicular lines must have both opposite and reciprocal slopes. So opposites, that would be like 5 and -5. Opposites means it's the same number, but one's negative and one's positive. Or if, let's say we started off with -2, its opposite would be 2. Okay, so opposite, one's positive, one's negative. Reciprocal, so we have 2/3. Its reciprocal would be 3/2. Okay, that's flipping the numerator and the denominator. So if we had the number, let's say 4, its reciprocal would be 1/4. Remember that every number is a fraction over 1. Okay, so an example of both, let's say I have -3/5. Its opposite reciprocal would be +5/3. Okay, so notice that we made it opposite in the sense that now it's positive, and the reciprocal moving the numerator and the denominator. Okay, let's get some more examples in. So we're going to determine whether these lines are perpendicular or not, and then we're going to explain. Remember, perpendicular for us, that means opposite reciprocal slopes. So we need to know the slope. I know the slope of my first line for this one, since it's in slope-intercept form. My slope is 2. Okay, now usually what I do with these is I kind of think, what would the opposite reciprocal slope need to be? What would the slope need to be to make this perpendicular? And since it's opposite reciprocal, I say, okay, it needs to be -1/2. And I keep that really in my mind. I'll write it down for you guys, but I keep that in my mind and say that's what my next slope would have to be in order for these to be perpendicular. And now I'm going to go into this next problem, or this next equation, and see what my slope is. In order to find the slope, I want to put it in slope-intercept form. So 2y equals -4x plus 8. Divide by 2. And so I'll get y equals -2x plus 4. My slope is -2. Okay, are these lines perpendicular? No, they are not. It's not the opposite reciprocal slope. It's just the opposite slope. Remember, we need opposite reciprocal. Okay? So in this problem, number 2, we have this in slope-intercept form. They tell us that our slope is negative 2/5. Okay, so again, in my mind I'm thinking, what would be its opposite reciprocal slope? Its opposite reciprocal would be positive 5/2. Okay, so now I'm thinking, I'm going to solve this problem. Hope, and not really hope, I really don't care if it's what the answer is. I'm just trying to figure out what the answer is. So I'm going to go through here. 5x minus 2y equals 8. I will subtract 5x from both sides. So I have negative 2y equals negative 5x plus 8. Okay, remember that's how we move. We move things just like we're trying to solve. And now to get y all the way by itself, I'll divide by negative 2. And so I have y equals negative 5 over negative 2x minus 4. Now notice I have a negative divided by negative, and that makes it positive. So my slope then is positive 5 over 2. Hey, are these two perpendicular? Yes. They have the same, or sorry, they have opposite reciprocal slopes. Opposite reciprocal slopes. Okay, and then number 3, again, for this problem, our slope is negative 4/3, and so I know I'm looking for a slope if they're going to be perpendicular, positive 3/4. So I'll solve this out. 6x plus 8y equals 40. Solve for y, so I'm going to subtract 6x from both sides. 8y equals negative 6x plus 40. Divide by 8, and that is y equals negative 6 over 8x plus 5. Okay, negative 6 divided by 8. If I simplify that, that gives me negative 3/4. Okay, negative 3/4. We'll see that these are not opposite. Okay, they are reciprocals, but they're not opposite. So no. Not opposite slopes. I know opposite has an E at the end. I just didn't have space on my page. Okay. Alright. So, in order to write the equation of a line perpendicular to y equals negative 4x plus 3, it goes through the point 8, negative 3. We have the same process that we'll do with parallel lines as well. We find the slope of the original line, we'll say of the first line. Find the slope of the second line. And then we find the y-intercept using the point. Now, I said that this is the only change from parallel lines, because now the slope of our second line, we're looking at a perpendicular slope instead of a parallel slope. That is the only change. Okay, so the slope of our first line, negative 4. Since we're talking about perpendicular lines, we know our slopes aren't going to be the same anymore. Our slopes are going to be opposite reciprocals. So we need to find the slope of this, and it's not just going to be the same, it's going to be the opposite reciprocal. So opposite would make it positive 4. Reciprocal, so I usually like to do this. Opposite makes it positive 4. Reciprocal makes it 1/4. Okay, so just some arrows to help remind me to do both. And so the slope of my new line is 1/4. I know that the line goes through the point 8, negative 3. And so now I can write the equation of this line with the slope of 1/4 that goes to the point 8, negative 3. And I'll just do that by using slope-intercept form. Remember, that's y equals mx plus b. I'll plug my x in where the x goes. I'll plug my y in where the y is. and my m is 1/4. I do not know b, but I'm going to solve for b. So 1/4 times 8 is 2. I'll subtract 2 from both sides, so b is -5. So I know my slope, because I found that out because it's perpendicular to my original line, and I know my y-intercept, because I just found that out by solving the slope-intercept form. And now, y equals 1/4 x minus 5. Okay, and that's it. Alright, so here we go. At the top of the line, at the top of this worksheet, we have the instructions that say write the equation of the line perpendicular to x minus 5y equals 20. That goes to the point -2, 9. Perpendicular, remember, to us that means opposite reciprocal slopes. Opposite reciprocal. So, we need to know the slope of this original line. Remember that we can find the slope just by looking at an equation if it's in slope-intercept form. That means y is by itself. This is not in slope-intercept form, so we need to put it there first. It means get y by itself. So in order to do that, I'm going to subtract x from both sides. That will leave me with -5y equals -x plus 20. Okay, and now I want to get y all the way by itself. I'm going to divide both sides by -5. And so y will equal 1/5 x, okay, because negative divided by negative is positive, minus 4. Okay. Now, the important part that we just found was the slope. The slope of our original line was 1/5. The perpendicular slope will be its opposite reciprocal. So opposite means it'll be -1/5. Reciprocal means it'll be -5. Okay. So the slope of our new line is -5. It needs to go through the point -2, -9. Again, we'll plug it into y equals mx plus b. Y is -9. M is -5. X is -2 plus b. B is what we don't know at this point. -5 times -2 is +10. I'm going to get b all the way by itself. -19. So b is -19. So I know my b is -19. I know my slope is -5. The equation of my line will be -5x minus 19. Okay, and that's the equation, and that's how you find the equation of the line. So the same process that we talked about on the front side, different problem. Okay, and then our last example here. We're going to write the equation of the line that's perpendicular to the line shown that goes through the labeled point. So really the same thing, except we kind of have to find slope a little bit differently. So I'm going to find what the slope of this first line is. See it here, it goes up 2 over 1. So the slope of this line is 2 over 1. Okay, all right. This point, I need to figure out where that's at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I go left 5 is -5, up 6, +6. The point is -5, 6. That's the point that they gave me to write the equation through. The original line slope is 2, and so I want to find the slope of my new line, which will be opposite, -2, reciprocal, -1/2. So the slope of my new line will be -1/2. And now that I have those two pieces of information, I can write the equation of this line. Y, 6, equals m, 1/2, x, -5, plus b. Don't know what b is yet. Okay, now I plug this in. I get 5/2 plus b equals 6. Okay, now to get b all the way by itself, what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 5/2 from both sides. Now this can be a little bit difficult because 6 isn't a fraction. Okay, in order to subtract fractions, we need to have common denominators. And so I'm going to make 6 into a fraction with a common denominator. And now think about it like this. right now 6 is a fraction over 1. In order for this to be a common denominator, we need to make sure it has 2 as the denominator. So that means I'm going to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 2. And so I'm going to continue this problem over here. And so what that means is I'm going to take 12 over 2 minus 5 over 2. And that should give me 12 minus 5, 7 over 2. So 7 over 2 is B. Okay, my slope is negative 1/2. And so my equation of my line should be y equals negative 1/2 x plus 7 over 2. Or 3.5, either way. Okay. And go down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2. Alright, so if I drew this line out, you'll see that the slope, the y-intercept, as my paper gets all wiggly waggly. Okay. You'll see this y-intercept isn't a really nice number. Okay, it's not really nice. But 7 over 2, which is approximately, well, not approximately, it is 3.5. 1, 2, 3.5, right in the middle there. Okay, so that's the equation of our line. Our equation of our line works even if it's not a really nice number. Okay, all right, so you should now be able to write the equation of the line given the information of this perpendicular line, just like you can with parallel lines. All right, see you.